Hi, it's Bruce Martin again, and just wanted to come back with our second in hopefully a good series of items about your job search and the recruiting process for candidates all across the spectrum out there, not just in our industry. And I appreciate all the feedback from the first one. We're actually working with YouTube to try and figure out the gap in the engagement, but we had thousands of people on our LinkedIn and Facebook engage with us on it, and we really appreciate the feedback. One person said that I need a media coach, so tongue firmly in cheek here, we're going to start a ad camp or a crowdfunding campaign to get me a media coach. One other said that I was dressed down in a golf pullover for that, so I've decided to significantly class it up with a little hometown swag and a Chicago police hat from my good friend Seth here in the city, just to piss that person off. But the big feedback that I got was that candidates should hear from a recruiter about dealing with recruiters in their process, and that I probably should have done that video first. So that's today. Going to talk about three things within that process. And the first thing is we're going to talk about the role of the recruiter in the process. I will tell you right away, step one, if you're lost on your resume and you're lost in the job search, or you're confused or confounded or whatever you are, this should help you. And knowing, number one, that the recruiter is not the hiring manager. The recruiter is the person, whether it's internal recruiters or like in a company, or external like us. We go to the grocery with a list of requirements that the chef, who's the hiring executive, needs for his or her team. And they're building something in their team. They need a certain set of credentials. So they have sent us to the grocery for that list of credentials. And a lot of candidates don't get that. They're like, just get us in front of the hiring manager. That would be like the hiring manager sending an internal recruiter or us to the grocery because they're making taco salad for dinner, and we find some mozzarella cheese on sale. And we're like, let's just do that. They'll love that. And get home, and how does mozzarella cheese fit into taco salad? It just doesn't. Are you not paying attention? So for an internal recruiter, surely does not want to hear that from a hiring executive within his or her company. And an external recruiter does not want to hear that, because this is how we feed our families, by paying attention and listening and bringing them a good pool of candidates. So, another critique I got was I look off to my left a lot. There's no list on the wall over here. It's actually Chicago skyline. I guess I can look to my right, but I've got Soldier Field right there, and as you can see, that's probably not going to work. So I'll keep looking over here. So that's the role of the recruiter. The recruiter is responsible for bringing a pool of talent, the right groceries, back to the chef, the hiring manager, so that he or she can add to their team, which helps them cook the meal. I know it's super simplistic, but it's important to understand in a real world analogy of where the recruiter sits. So there's not a lot of decision making authority for us. We don't make the hiring decision. The corporate recruiter, and this will help us segue into point number two. When you're communicating with them, keep a couple things in mind. Recruiting is probably not the only thing that she or he is doing. They have so many functions within the hiring process, the talent management process of the company, from white glove treatment, onboarding candidates, to orientation, to background checks, resume checks, leadership assessments. They've got pressure coming from the hiring executive. They're hearing from the recruiter like us, like what's going on with our candidates. So they have so many things going. So when you're communicating with a corporate recruiter, keep that in mind. Also keep it in mind when you're sending your resume in. Do not paper their inbox with your resume for every position that they have open. Also, don't leave the cover letter spot blank, but also don't copy and paste the same message into that cover letter space. Short, sweet, and very much focused on the job that you're applying for. It's so easy to see copy and paste, and there's such a lack of personal connection there when you do that. So keep in mind that you're speaking to folks that have other jobs to do. I mean, can you imagine that if on every position there was, 20, 30 candidates, one person is going to get that job, right? So you want the recruiter to be your friend, because if you don't get that job, you want him or her or us or them to remember you for the next position. And if you have not handled yourself well, I mean, we've got a handful every year of candidates who get really indignant. And if we tell them that there's not a fit for them, well, why not just get me in front of them, and they go on and on. If that happened with every candidate that spoke to an external recruiter at a firm or an internal recruiter at a company, we'd never get any work done. You have to trust us that our job is to get the right candidate in front of. That's how we get paid. That's how we feed our families, by the right candidate getting hired by the company. We're not just going to shotgun candidates up against the wall and hope they stick. Our job is we want to help them find this person, and then we've done such a good job, they're going to help us find the next person. And if that's you this time, or maybe it's you next time. All right, so that's two. So the first one is, what's the recruiter's role? Second one is communicating with the recruiter. You really want them to be your friend. Respect them. A little self-serving, certainly, because that's what we do, but people want to know. So the third thing is, without a doubt, whether I'm standing at a barbecue, or if I'm on the boat, or if I'm just emailing with a friend about their resume, that candidates want to know about follow-up. And what do? I sent my resume in, I haven't heard back, or I heard back and then they went dark. I thought an offer was coming. You thought an offer was coming. What do we do? There's no perfect way to do it. The one thing you don't want to do is to be that gnat that's just zipping around. We're not horses where we have manes and tails where we can swish the gnats away and the flies away while we also eat. We have to stop and push the gnat away and then continue what we're doing. So don't be that. What you want to be is you want to have credibility and confidence. Desperation, we can smell it a mile away. Do not be a desperate candidate, even if you have desperation. I find over the years we've reached out to quite a few executives in our industry saying, hey, can we help your team with that vice president search you have, or that director search you have? And we never hear back from them, which is fine, because that's sales, right? And we have the confidence that we'll get the next one, or somebody will come to us, and it happens all the time. But then those same executives get displaced, and if we don't respond to their inquiry or their resume, they lose their minds. And I think you can't lose your mind in follow-up with a recruiter. You have to be professional. Even if you're wearing a Philadelphia Eagles hoodie, you have to respect their time. And I would recommend establishing an expectation. If you are engaged with a recruiter, whether it's our firm or an internal recruiter, I have no problem with the candidate asking us, what's the client's timeline? When do you think we'll hear back from you? Because candidates don't want to be a pest, most of them. They want to be professional. They want to establish a relationship. They want us to be their friend and their advocate. So establish that up front whenever you can, and then stick to it. And, allow the recruiter to say, it'll be a week, or don't call us, we'll call you. And then respect that. So the three things, this was 8 minutes. The person who complained that it was too long, Denise, we're a little bit over, but the first one is the candidate's role, the recruiter's role. Don't forget where they sit in the process. Number 2, communicating with them. Remember what else they have on their plate. And number 3, follow-up. You want them to be your friend, whether it's this time or down the road. All right, that's all I've got. Not sure if we're going to get back to you before the election, but if we don't, we'll see you right after. Bye.